Alrighty, section 5 in CIT48A. Hard to believe we are past the halfway point of the semester, and now this week is probably my second favorite topic of this class, which is networking. One of my early jobs in IT. I wouldn't say early, but I was a systems engineer. I built corporate networks for several large companies here in Fresno, and I really enjoyed it. It was a fun thing I got to do, and it still has benefited me through the years. I love playing with my own home network. And of course, working on your home network is different than working on a corporate network. There's much more you have to think about on the corporate side, but more and more we have to think about on our home networks as well. So hopefully you all have good routers. You have good what we call passcode, right? Wi-Fi, wireless security. Don't leave your Wi-Fi open. And I hope this term doesn't offend anybody. Hope I'm not preaching to the choir on that one, because we all should have our wireless networks secured with strong passwords, not simple ones. And our routers should be up to date. So, anyway, I won't go into my preachy about that, but just know that. So, this week, in addition to getting to some really, I think, great content, we're going to have two assignments. One is the discussion board. So, this week, and we see this pattern where we have a discussion. Sometimes we do, like we did last week, the peer review, right? And this week you're actually going to do a discussion about cyber life. I'll go over that in a minute. And then part of what you will do, depending on which option you've selected, Darknet, you're going to do your third video. For the essay folks, you're going to work on your presentation. Okay, so let's just go over what you need to do for this week. Okay, so by the way, the capture the flag content has been really fun to read. I've been enjoying those. So, by the way, also, um, I do try to go through those once a day. So, if I see students posting items that have already been posted, I flag you. So be sure to check the content or the comments I'm making so that you can update your post if there are any issues, and then, get the most points possible. Because if you're updating it after the due date, it's really going to hurt your grade. And by this time you've finished your your midterm. It took me a minute. I don't know why. Okay, so here's what you're going to do this week. This week, you're going to have a discussion. In this discussion, you're going to talk about like the cyber life that we're all kind of living, right? And of course, I had to give my own experience of since early on in my days doing manual typewriters all the way to virtual documents. And then I want you to reflect on your own cyber life and then consider the questions below. And I want to say this because this happened a couple of times, right? Um, right. Besides just the, ask questions, making assumptions, predictions, and express your opinion. Those are all good things. But and I almost want to take this out, because one thing I've noticed students will do is they'll just take the questions and answer them, but that's not the idea. The idea here is for you to write, your answers, to this in your own words and not just post the questions. So make sure you're doing that, and make sure you're doing a substantive post here, right? So, here's the things you want your post to answer is, can you truly be anonymous, easy for me to say, online? Should you? I mean, that's the other question, right? Is can you and should you, and what are, because there's definitely both sides of that, right? And what cyber threat concerns you the most? I kind of started talking about one with Wi-Fi, but there are many others. And what are your concerns about that, and what role of the government in securing cyberspace, right? So in your writing, make sure you don't post the questions, you have that covering for that. Okay. All right, so that's your discussion, and then like I talked about before, now we get into the networking. Review the PDF, take the quizzes for this week, and if I've talked about before the whole taking the IT fundamentals, but if you have any questions about that, please reach out. I'm not sure why this actually lists them here. Oh no, sorry, they're listing them all together here, and then the quizzes themselves, but they are also listed next, right? So in there as well. So let's just kind of move past these items and look at the last item for this week, which is the next thing you want to do. So last week you turned in to me, and this week you're going to again turn it in. And next week we'll actually have a review. Okay, so next week we'll do a peer review of either your presentation or your next darknet. So here's what you want to do if you're doing the presentation, right? At this point, your writing part of this is done. Now it's time to move on to the PowerPoint. Now do know that if you're doing darknet or if you're doing your regular presentation, you're still going to do a narrative at the end. You don't have to do this now, and that's why this content in here. Just create your PowerPoint, and here's what you need to have on that PowerPoint, right? A title slide, okay. Single slide represented, slide separated from the rest of the presentation, right? A slide for each of the main topics. How many? It's really up to you, but here's a range for that. Pictures more than words, right? So you also don't want to overdo that. You don't want to, because you're going to have to go through it. And here's the key is create a script for yourself. They will read because you're going to have to go through this, um, you know, and then a concluding slide and then any resource slides. Okay, so here's the deal. On this, you want to, and this is going to be the same for the darknet, but in this case, you're sharing your PowerPoint, right? So provide me a link, and I've had some issues with links, so I just want to be clear about this. Is you want to share it so that anyone with the link can view it, because if we do this week and I make sure you have it shared correctly, then when it comes to next week, you'll be good to go. Okay. So you're not submitting a file for this, you're submitting the link. Now, either way, and I'm just going to go into my you'll create the presentation, right? You come into here, you hit share. Now this is for the folks doing the essay. This will be also true, but it'll be true for the PDF for the the darknet folks. So what you want to do here is actually specify who can view it, anyone with the link, right? And then hit apply. Now, when you hit apply there, you want to make sure this shows up, anyone with the link, and then hit copy. Now that gives you the link, and I'm just going to copy it real quick because I want to show you, because one of the students in this class and I got to spend a little time kind of looking at what this URL looks like. And one way you can kind of tell, and I'm going to paste it here, is that if it shows the folders that you're in and the document name, that means it's not shared correctly. Okay, that's one way you can tell. The other way is the way I showed you before, which is you go into the incognito window and you paste it there, right? So if it shows up there, that means you've shared it correctly, right? That's what you want to do. Now, so make sure you do that. The reason I've switched this up a little bit this week for you to share only a URL is because I've had a couple of issues with students not sharing correctly. Now, if you're using another cloud provider, make sure and I haven't actually had an issue with Google Cloud with this thing. Okay, so this is your opportunity to work on your presentation. If you have a regular essay, make sure you have all these things included, and I'll give you feedback. And by the way, make sure whatever feedback I give you, you fix before the peer review next week. Okay, that's part of what I wish I'd been more had explicitly said with your drafts, but eventually, hopefully, you all got it. Now, with the darknet folks, darknet folks, darknet diaries, this is going to be your third, and I think your final video, even though you selected 5. This is going to be your final one that you'll have to write about. Okay, so do the work in the same file. Make sure you fix any feedback, and boy, is that key, right? Because one thing I've said, and I've modified this a little bit since the beginning, and I'll just bring up the formatting just to show you here, is like, here's the link, right? Is that make sure that cover page, it is coming up, right? That cover page is there, which is good, right? And then here right? You have your video one, and the heading would be the heading here, video one, and then the episode number, and this is linked to the video. And then you do your writing. And inside of the writing, I don't want these these 7 minimum links, I don't want them listed anymore just because some of you just listed them. I want them integrated into the writing that you do. Okay. Do also make sure you have 1.5 spaces and use Times New Roman 12 here. And so make sure you have those formattings because I do take off for that if you don't have that formatting done correctly. Okay. Now, for you, save it as a PDF, right? Store it on the cloud and share it. So, again, like I said, for these folks, make sure that it's shareable so that anybody with the link can view it. So, just know when you submit it, what I'm going to do is actually do that. I'll open it in the incognito window to verify that you have shared it correctly so that we can fix any issues here. Now, for the darknet folks, the thing I want you to think about is now you are going to do a PowerPoint, but in your case, you're only going to have one slide for each of the 3 videos because I just want you to, when you get to your presentation that we'll do in 2 weeks, you'll just want to have a slide where you talk about really what you walked away learning from that particular video, right? So you can go ahead and set the slides up. I'm not going to make you turn them in this week. Like I said, you'll turn in your the PDF of your writing. Again, remember that you're doing all this in one file, so I should see video 1, 2, and now 3 in that same document. Don't give me different documents. Yeah, I'll mark off for that. Okay, so that's the work. Make sure you give me the URL. Like I said, it's the same for both folks. Making sure you shared it correctly as I showed today. It's the same process, making sure whether it's a PowerPoint or whether it's a PDF. Just think about, by the way, for the presentation, you'll end up recording your voice in the presentation before you share it in 2 weeks. But you don't have to do that this week. But that's why I want you, for those of you doing the regular essay, to work on a script because it just makes life a little easier. All right, I think that's it. So thanks so much. Have a great week and enjoy learning more, unless you already know a ton about networking, because it will serve you in so many ways. All right, have a good one. Talk to you later.